All right, everybody. Today we have an amazing guest, Mr. Brian Coons. And would you say you're like the ADU flipper guy? What would you say you do a lot of in San Diego?
I do a lot of reading municipal code, if I'm being honest, and trying to invest in real estate at the same time.
So talk about the municipal code stuff. You say like you find out different things about it and then do investing based on that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of code, right? And a lot of rules and restrictions and things and a lot of changing rules. So found out early on in my investing career that staying on top of that, you're able to figure out value where other people haven't caught on yet. So like this ADU coalition that everyone caught on to, I got into escrow on the first piece of land that I ever bought the month that the unlimited ADU program in San Diego came out.
Oh my gosh. So now everybody's caught on.
They're slowly but surely.
So it's no longer a secret. So yeah, so talk to me about that because you're right. The codes change all the time. And if you have an understanding of all the codes and what you can do and can't do with property, we always say, land is only worth what you can do to it.
Right.
And whether you have an existing building on it and you want to transform it a bit, add some value that way, or maybe it's a lot that you want to do development with that. But yeah, the land is only worth what you can do to it. Now, trying to tell a seller that, they don't grasp that. They're like, wait a minute, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if I can put 20 units here, it's worth a lot of money. But if I can only put 2 units here, it's worth, you just begin with the end.
Yeah.
And you back into a kind of a land residual number.
Absolutely. And what the other part that people kind of don't understand is, the cost of capital and, where the area is at changes a lot. So yeah, maybe you could put 20 units on it, but if the cost to build doesn't actually correlate with the cost of capital and the rent you're going to receive, then it doesn't even make sense. Sometimes if your capital needs to meet a certain return, they could give you the land for free and it still won't make sense.
Right. And you're seeing a lot of that right now, mainly because of the cost of construction.
Exactly.
Right, which we see, skyrocketing in different areas where, we're dealing with it even on a deal in La Mesa. It's a 20 unit new construction that has a couple units as affordable housing because we used, the whole
density bonus.
Yeah. Density bonuses and all that other stuff, which have been great. But even with the cost of construction now, we got the land at an amazing price.
Right.
Amazing price. But, 2.5 years later and just finalizing permits and now construction costs are, through the roof. It makes it even challenging in today's interest rate environment because of cost of capital. And then you add the construction costs on top of that for something to pencil when like before it penciled beautifully. And now everything squeezes.
Yeah, when you're underwriting at $150 a square foot, which 3 years ago now you were. I went to the IMN distressed asset event the other day in San Francisco, and tons of these people went in expecting $150 a square foot, and then all of a sudden they were underwriting at 5% increase in rents and vacancy at basically zero. And there's a lot of people who got into this and got halfway through construction or can't even start construction and get the loan now, because of the rise in interest rates and the cost of build going up, and it's not going down. It's just maybe it'll stabilize.
Yeah. What are you seeing? I hear anywhere from about, depending on your product type and finish level, but $250 to $350 a foot right now.
Yeah. Most people, by the end of the day, you're probably going to be in closer to $350, especially if you're doing like R2, which is the, apartment building where you need fire sprinkler, you need, probably a transformer if you're doing a large enough build and things like that. It'll add up.
And that $350 a foot, does that include like some soft costs and engineering and all that stuff? That's strictly
that's
ground
like materials and labor and just, site prep, trenching, all that stuff. Yeah.
Wow. So that does include some like land work.
Yeah. That's like for most people, they'll be in by the end of the day on the build, but yeah, the soft cost adds.
And you base that on the total square footage or livable square footage?
It depends. Like you can get pretty creative and pretty minimalistic with the amount of additional corridors, stairwells, things like that. But most of them will end up being around there. The bigger obviously the bigger the unit, the less kitchens and bathrooms you have, which is the most expensive part, so that it can go down. But right now, to make the numbers pencil, tons of people are building smaller units. Therefore, there's more kitchen and bathroom. Therefore, the cost is higher. So it's this weird dichotomy where the bigger you have, the cheaper it is to build, but the more it costs to build.
Right.
So
yeah, which because you got, like you said, the plumbing, and then you add in all the finishes, which kitchens and bathrooms is where it's at. That's super interesting. So, tell me a little bit about your kind of upbringing. Kind of were you born and raised in San Diego?
No, so I'm originally from Ohio. Joined
Nice,
the
Midwest boy.
Midwest. I was very much suburban lifestyle. I was like, 20, 30 minutes away from cornfields. So, but joined the military right out of high school and went over to North Carolina and a couple like East Coast places for a little while, and then came over here in 2019 and was like, this is the spot.
So you'll have an opinion on this. The youth these days, because you were a drill sergeant.
I was a drill instructor in the Marine Corps.
Drill instructor in the Marine Corps. Everybody, so my business partner currently, Christopher Poley, former Marine.
Okay.
And as you know, about 40% of all the Marines in the United States are trained right here in San Diego.
Yep.
Let's talk about that. Because you were telling me before we got on here about how do you scare the new recruits, but then sometimes they're not scared of you, and then you have to scare them again. And tell me about that.
It's an interesting space because you have people that they can't say no to what you're telling them to do, and if they say no, they're quitting.
Yeah.
But you also have to stay within rules and guidelines and ethics and stuff. And so it's this very interesting dichotomy where you have to make someone do something that they don't want to do without using what most people psychologically would think would be the easiest way, which is using physical force or using violence or something. And you have to figure out a way to motivate them to do it while also instilling a level of respect for authority that generally tends to come with a level of fear and whatnot. And there's, different roles of different drill instructors in the same platoon. And so, it's a very interesting psychological experiment that you get to experience.
Yeah. Give me a couple tactics. You share the Marine secrets.
So this may be a little bit contrarian to some of the other drill instructors I've worked with, but I believe that the consistent reinforcement is important, not necessarily positive, because you don't need to tell them good job. But if they're doing the thing right, just don't yell at them. Yell at the ones that are doing something bad. Set the example, set the standard. Because I had quite a few people that would just yell at everyone the same way all the time, and then they would wonder why some kids were worse than others. And I realized I'm like, no, psychologically, you need to induce a level of consistency for someone, and they say, hey, if I don't do this thing, I'm going to get yelled at. So let's do this thing because then I don't get yelled at.
Gotcha. Why would you don't even get told good job. You just don't get yelled at.
Yeah, which is absolute positive reinforcement.
It's kind of what kids like anyway. You think about children.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? They get yelled at something and then they don't do it and the parents don't yell at them. So then they start to, okay, that aligns with that. Don't do that.
Right. Absolutely.
Huh. How long did you do that for?
I was over there for about 3.5 years.
Okay, and that was in North Carolina?
No, that was in San Diego. That's why I came over here, was to be a drill instructor.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Anything like bad happen that you can share legally?
So what's interesting about the space is it's more, the kids go through. They go through 3 months and they're done. They'll have their stories of, funny stuff, but going through as a drill instructor where it's the same thing and you're stuck with the drill instructors, it's very interesting. There's certain, things that, happen to other people. And so, it's going to happen to me. And that was kind of like, honestly, one of the things that really showed me what I consider good leadership. And, so when something bad happens to you, you have two ways to think about it. You can either say, hey, this happened to me, so it's going to happen to you. Stop complaining about it. Or, hey, this happened to me, so there's no way that I'm going to let this happen to you because that sucked. I noticed some of the people there for sure were the first way, and then some people were the second way, and it kind of helped me determine
where they would help it not happen to their other comrades.
Well, so for example, one of my guys in leadership, for me, he missed his daughter's birth because he was there, and there was this unwritten rule that on your first cycle, you're there 24/7, 7 days a week. Wow. So he actually missed the birth of his daughter. So from there,
how does his wife feel about that?
He was probably, had a couple conversations with her.
I'd say so.
And so, he went through that, which I couldn't even fathom. I don't have a kid but I can only try to empathize. But because of that, nothing that he forced anyone to do was that bad in his mind. And, this happened to me. So when what's happening to you is not nearly as bad.
Gotcha.
It's this very interesting, psychology behind leadership too, and trying to empathize with somebody while also staying realistic, and they don't always match. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Do you, because societal norms these days are saying things about, well, you shouldn't spank kids, or you should spank kids, or do this, don't do that, and I feel like things have become more snowflakey. Like, what do you feel about that? I mean,
yeah, I would definitely say that overall, people, I feel, are more sensitive to a lack of empathy. And that leads to, people wanting to be heard while not, because, the prior generation doesn't have the empathy, but this generation desires more empathy than them.
Gotcha.
So it creates this significant spread and disconnect. And I think that, I think that some people are snowflakes for sure. 100%. But
I don't know why I love that word so much, snowflake. Yeah. I just, I
never seen someone called a snowflake that smiled after.
No, I'll joke with my kids sometimes, because I'll be like, Brody, dude, we're not going to be a snowflake today. And he'll look at me like, what do you mean, Dad? And I'm like, yeah, no snowflakes, toughen up.
Yep.
So it's interesting how that goes down. That's so funny. Do you think kids are softer today? How old are you now?
27.
So you're still young. Gosh, man, I'm 44. Now I feel like a geezer in the room. Kevin, how old are you? You're 40, 41? Yeah, you're old too. So what is it like to be 27 again? I mean, 27.
It's weird. I think I feel like I did a good amount of things right in the beginning, especially joining the military, saving up money, getting into investing. So I'm happy with where I'm at given my age, but I definitely still, have to check myself daily, comparing myself to other people. And, I have my health still. I'm trying to take care of that, but continuing to relish or ruin the day that it goes downhill. And
there's so much pressure, and everybody sees it, regardless of you being able to turn a blind eye to it when you're on social media, because it's amplified it. And you see people with their certain lifestyles, and we call it fame book, Instaglam, right? It's not Insta, it's Instaglam, because everybody typically posts wins and things that they want
highlight
to
reel.
Get verification for. That, hey, I'm doing a great job, or hey, congratulations for standing in front of the jet, or whatever. But intuitively, people behind the scenes, you talk to them off of that, and they know that stuff is not really valuable. They know that it does come down to relationships and people, experiences, and not material items. But yet people still post that shit. What do you think about that?
I mean, I get it. The 1% is not the ones who are scrolling Instagram the same way that the 99% are. And most of the stuff that you put out, you're catering to 99% because it's numbers. Like, that's generally why. So, but yeah, it's this big grain of salt. Like, obviously, you have to, if you want to have a social media presence stuff, you have to be posting certain things that cater to certain audiences. Yeah. But yeah, behind the scenes, I think it's, you get on your daily consistency. Like, hey, as long as I go to the gym, as long as I tell my wife and kids I love them and I spend time with them, as long as I eat healthy, as long as I, make it a concerted effort to go travel or to schedule trips or to schedule weekend events with my wife and date nights and stuff. And I'm doing those things and I'm learning consistently, and I have something that I'm working on every single day that I have a passion for. Those things, I think, they aren't as sexy for sure when you're on your computer, cold calling, or you're, just putting together a podcast to post on social media. That's not as sexy. So it's harder to get the views, but that's the stuff where you can go to bed at night and you say, yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah. You keep the promises to yourself, they call it, right?
Yep.
What legacy would you like to leave when it happens?
I just want to leave people happier than I, met them at. I'm still trying to figure out kind of what that thing that I want to leave is. And I don't place as much validity on something that I leave when I'm dead as I do while I'm here. Cause gotcha. I try to, that's kind of what I said before. I try to focus on the daily stuff. And so if I'm always just I'll get on a phone call with you and I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you about real estate. I'll talk to you about your profile. I'll give my opinion if you ask for it. I'll spend time. I just try and do that every day. And, it's like, if I have time in the day, it's yours until it's not. Like,
I love that. What challenges, what's the recent challenge that you've dealt with, and how did you overcome it?
It's a great question. I've had a lot of challenges lately. A lot of my projects, like development projects, are coming to fruition of permits all at the same time. And so it's
now you got to deal with, capital.
Well, it's capital, and it's my partners and I have specific roles, and with development, obviously, like it's a lot to learn. And I've had the very lucky perspective of being at ADU Geeks and learning from 500 projects.
Yeah.
But even so, there's still stuff on my own projects where I'm learning, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that you needed to do that now. And so, there's time frame overruns and stuff, and constantly having to push timelines back and stuff that's disappointing my partners, which really sucks.
And what types of deals are you finding in, how are you putting them together now? Because there's a lot more people in the ADU game now in San Diego.
For sure.
Because they're like, oh, unlimited, you can put it on a single family lot. Sounds great.
Yeah, it's been interesting to kind of see this onset, and I have calls like almost daily with people, or weekly with investors, like bigger investors who are buying some real projects that are coming from Orange County, coming from LA, coming from San Fran, like daily, and they don't understand this ADU thing, so they're calling us, and I'm getting on phone calls and really going through, because I want to share. Like I think it's abundant enough for everyone, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough right now. The cost of capital, people are playing different games, which is hard. And so you have these bigger investors who can go down with 50% cash, 14-day close, and
they're taking down the single family.
And they're taking down the single. Like I had one that was listed for 720. I came in at 750 with 21-day close, and I was ready to go.
What?
And somebody came in. I don't know who it was, but someone came in and said 789. I'm buying it. Let me know how much.
Holy crap!
And it's absurd. So yeah, you have to. So to answer your question, you have to understand a value that other people don't understand. And so, yes, there's the numbers, which is the project cost, the rent you're going to receive, and the vacancy that you think you're going to have or not have. Past that, though, there's the area, there's the amenities that you can provide for them, there's what differentiates your product from others in the area, and things like that can change a deal for the better, where if you have this, everyone's going to North Park right now. What if you go 5 minutes out of North Park,
City Heights,
and you're City Heights, or up above the 8, where I'm really bullish on, and some of these areas that are secondary, but they're not going to have the same issue with parking. They're not going to have the same issue with density as they
Parking
are.
is a major problem. Who was I chatting with the other day? It was the guys in La Mesa, the city guys in La Mesa, because they're talking about, of course, North Park and these areas where these they're using micro units. And go into the sky and put these little mini mid-rises up with no parking.
Yep.
And in theory, it was a great idea because the TPA zone allows you to do it and put in zero parking and all this stuff. But then they find out, oh crap, we can't really rent them at the rate that we thought. So the marketability issue starts to take hit, where they didn't think it was going to be an issue at first. But now they're finding out it's an issue.
There's a what you can do and a what you should do. And that's something. And for me, like that, my job for a year and a half was literally just telling people what I thought highest best use was, and the psychology behind why I thought that. And so, you can put 70, 80, 90 units on a 7,000 square foot lot and make them all 200 square foot studios.
Oh my God.
But most of the people who you'd be marketing to would rather pay, $200 more to go live in a duplex. And so you have to find this perfect,
highest best use,
this perfect guess, right, behind what you think the unit size, the mix, the amenities, and highest best use is
for the market.
Exactly.
It's interesting. What projects do you have going on right now?
So right now on the personal side, I have a 3-unit build on a single family, a 8-unit build on a single family in Linda Vista, and then a 11-unit build on a 4-unit in Linda Vista.
So do you, how does the 11-unit on a 4-unit? Because I thought it's only single family zoned.
No. So anything in city of San Diego that is within the sustainable development area can have unlimited ADUs up to the
regardless
max.
if it's zone 4-unit
does not matter. The only difference, the only nuance there is if it's zoned single family, you get 1 ADU by right, and then you tap into the deed restricted bonus program, where if it's multifamily, you get 2, and then you tap into it.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay. That's news to me. Yeah. See, this is why you know all the codes, man.
Yeah.
Where do you see it going? Do you think it's going to tap itself out at some point and they're going to have to pull back the reins on it because it gets out of control? Or what do you think?
I foresee it getting more expensive and more restrictions prior to them just saying you can't do unlimited ADUs or you can't do complete communities. So I have a feeling that they're going to start adding school fees back, adding development impact fees, adding parking requirements in certain areas and things like that. Before they just say no. I feel like they're going to tighten it, make it harder to do, and make people be more methodical to add it in the right areas rather than just where they think it's going to make them the most money.
What do you think about condo conversions if they come back? Have you thought about this?
Of the AB 1033?
Well, yeah, meaning, so you do have this ADU game where you go in at a unit, 2 units, 4 units, whatever it is. But the condo conversion game, where it's an apartment building that may have a map already on it versus trying to put a new map on it. It may already have a map on it from 20 years ago that they just haven't executed on. It's not a rental property. But now maybe executing on that map because the costs have gotten so high and prices have gotten so high on kind of your traditional condo property that, hey, let's do a condo conversion where you have a normal condo may sell for $800,000 hypothetically in San Diego, whereas a condo conversion is maybe $575 in the same neighborhood, where there's enough delta where, hey, let's do it, but there's a huge profit.
Right.
So
I could foresee that. I think the problem right now is that 75% of the people who are in San Diego got into real estate development when ADUs became a thing. So that's all they know. And I'm partially on that page. I'd be lying if I said I knew everything about condo conversions. But I think that there's quite a spread still for where, ADUs make sense on the right investments before you start going into the other side of things. So some of the more experienced people, I think they could get ahead of that curve for sure. And I will probably look into it a little more
we're looking into it right now. That's what I was asking you.
So that's I could foresee you getting ahead of the curve on that instead of going the complete communities route. I just think that there's a lot of opportunities for ministerial approvals that are kind of quicker right now, and everyone kind of understands them.
Gotcha.
So that's probably leading people away from that right now.
And when you design these, because my architect guy says for the quickest, fastest way, you design them in pods of 2. So they're basically duplexes. Like if you're going to build 4, you one duplex, one duplex. So that way for fire code and other
so what the change between those is R3 to R2 occupancy. So R3 is basically single family or duplex where there's less fire code restrictions. You don't need fire sprinkler.
R3.
R3. So R2, you need fire sprinkler. You need further fire separations. You need the first floor being ADA compliant. So there's just a lot more because you're following California building code, not California residential code.
Gotcha. See, I just learned something right there. That was perfect.
Yeah, learn out.
Tell me about philanthropy, passions, things you care about.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to balance, trying to fill up my glass and then be able to fill into others. So I definitely can do more on there, but I find some of the things that,
maybe the things if you can't do them currently or you're not doing them currently, but you wish you can do, or you will do.
Yeah. So I find, some of the more experimental, psychedelic therapy for veterans kind of interesting.
Ayahuasca, DMT, stuff like that.
Yeah, like specifically like psilocybin and MDMA and ketamine. I think there's been some studies that I am not an expert by any means on this, but seen enough background to kind of see some more validity than what I have experienced in my career, which is mostly just drinking and getting over it as the therapy. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of untapped potential there to kind of find a better modality for people to get through some of the hard stuff. And I did not have the hardest for sure, but it still sucked. And I wish that there was better outlets for sure. And I want to help in there.
Yeah. Speaking on that topic, because we go every year and we help support the Seal Future Foundation, which is West Coast and East Coast based, but they have their headquarters out here in San Diego. And you learn about, and they don't even call themselves SEALs, as I'm sure you know. They call themselves team guys.
Yep.
So I learned this. So they said, hey, if you ever go up to a Navy SEAL, like don't say like, are you a SEAL?
Yeah.
Because they'll be like, look at you like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. So you go up to him and you say, hey man, you're a team guy.
Yeah.
And like, they'll think you're really cool.
Nice. They're like, oh, he knows.
Yeah. He knows.
Yeah.
But it's incredible the amount of SEALs that commit suicide every day.
Yeah.
And we learn so much about this. You have the mental side of it, which we all know, but it makes sense when you kind of back into it. I mean, they've been at the upper echelon of, the U.S. military in seeing some crazy stuff. And then all of a sudden they've had this purpose and this drive and this camaraderie and the teamwork and everything they've had for years. Yeah. And now it's pulled away from them and they go into the civilian life and they're like, wait a minute. Like,
what
I
is
can't
this?
just go do what? Like be an accountant? Like I was shooting dudes in Afghanistan 3 weeks ago and now you want me to become a civilian? So they lose purpose from what I understand. They lose drive and the camaraderie of family. Yeah. Because they don't know how to handle that. And it's amazing. But I'm sure that happens in the Marines too. Talk about that. Yes.
I mean, so very, hyper specific anecdotal side, but as a drill instructor, like I think there was 2 or 3 people that committed suicide while I was on the depot.
Really?
Yeah, it's a rough place. And there's probably 50% of the people that go to the drill field married are not married by the end of it.
Holy
Yeah.
Wow. Why do you think that is? I mean, I can guess, but
yeah, I mean,
it's
high level, it's stress. You're literally there, your first cycle, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And you get sent home every once in a while, like 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, sometimes after 9 when the kids go to bed. And then you're back at 5 a.m. Or 4 really.
But don't you stay on site? You live on site when you're going through the...
No, I mean, you have a duty hut where you sleep, which is like 5 dudes in one room that you share bunk beds and one bathroom with no kitchen. But yeah, like when you get to go home, that's your time to go home and see your wife, but disconnect. You're tired, you're miserable, you're unhappy. And so all you want to do when you go home is go to bed. So literally you have to be intentional. This goes for like relationships ever, but like specifically it's like very heightened there, but you have to be purposeful with your relationship. Otherwise it will struggle. Yeah. And you have to go out of your way. You have to make time. You have to be purposeful with going on dates and going on making time for each other and connectedness. And there it's just because you have every excuse in the book. Like, I don't know the exact percentage of people who get divorced or are unhappy in relationships, but I imagine it's pretty high just in regular life.
Right.
So heighten every single excuse you have to 1,000 of why that's not the most important thing right now.
Of course.
And then, that generally tends to answer the question of why people tend to get divorced as quickly there. They're just unhappy. Yeah.
It makes sense, man. So we had met originally out at Ryan Pineda's event at WealthCon a little over a year ago. A year ago. What were your takeaways from it? Because we met a couple other San Diego peeps, Chris Luna and I think a handful of other San Diego folks were there. Yeah. What did you take from that event? And I guess, did you meet other people around the country other than just San Diego peeps?
Yeah, I mean, I met a few. I'm not going to lie. I don't remember the exact most of what the speakers said. That's not really why I go to the events. But it's the connections. Like as corny as that sounds or whatever, like we're sitting here today.
Well, that's why we pay to get up in the penthouse.
Well, yeah, it's like, it's like, I just want to like know people and know how I can help them. And if there's something that aligns where I can help add value to you, like, or like, it's, I don't know, the people are fun. I love people. So it's fun to go and see people's stories and see where there's collaboration and stuff. Cause that's where you find purpose. Like that's where you go and you find reasons.
I agree. So you said you're from Ohio. Does that mean you're a Buckeye?
I honestly, I'm not the biggest college football fan in the world.
What sports do you follow? Any sports?
I used to follow football a little bit more. One of the guys that I went to high school with was on the Chiefs for a while and then moved to the Browns. So I kind of like kept up a little bit more with that. But growing up, like I was more of a playing sports person. Like I like just going to play pickup sports or whatever rather than like watching. So I just never got into it. Then military, you get busy, and then drill instructor, you get really busy. So it just I've never
met a drill instructor, by the way. So this is why it's so cool. And then you of course have your, because Because I was telling you, I could see a drill instructor in you. I totally
Which is
could see it.
hilarious feedback because I
You're telling me most
never
people
get
don't.
that. No, yeah.
They're
It's
just
the
like,
opposite
wait
way.
a minute, this doesn't fit the box. So
Which
like,
is a huge compliment. So
family, are they back in Ohio? Are they out here?
yeah, so a whole family's in Ohio. Like my brother joined the Navy right out of high school, which kind of got me looking at the military. And I was like, this kind of makes sense. Like, don't pay for college because you have no idea what you want to do with your life yet. Get it paid for and go from there. And then, it just progresses. But yeah, the whole family's there. My brother moved back when he got out of the Navy and I just caught the San Diego bug. Now I'm here.
When did you get out?
In 2022.
Okay. And when did you go in?
I went in 2014. So it was 8 years.
Okay. Did you ever serve overseas at all or?
No. So I was Cherry Point, North Carolina, and then came over here. Okay. So,
randomly, sometimes I'll talk to my dad because he was Army vet, and he was in Vietnam. But he thought when he went to Vietnam that he was going to be the driver of the Jeeps for the admirals. So he thought he was going to get the cushy job.
Nice.
And he gets over there and they're like, no, you're not going right. Like you go left, like go over there. And rather than being the driver for these Jeeps, he ended up being a door gunner for the helicopters.
Okay.
Okay. And most people don't know this, but the average lifespan at that time for a door gunner in Vietnam was 7 days.
Oh, okay.
7 days.
Wow.
And so he talks about how they initiated him. So he's sitting there with a buddy on the bench and they bring in this black helicopter, right? It's like straight out of a movie, Darth Vader glass things on and everything's dark. It's black, everything's black helicopter. And they come in, right? They land this helicopter, sawed off shotguns are walking at him like, Terminator type stuff. They get in the helicopter, they get in, they take that helicopter off at full speed and go straight up, in the air until it stalls. And then the helicopter comes down and the blades snap and it turns the helicopter back on. He says, I pretty much shit my pants.
Oh my God.
He's never been so scared in his life. And that was his introduction into being a door gunner.
Wow. Yeah.
In Vietnam in 1970, whatever it was.
That's crazy.
And he said you couldn't make friends because if you did, you'd come back in that evening at the bar and they'd be dead. And he also said, Justin, you and your brother were about a quarter of an inch from never being born. And he literally meant that because they used to sit on bulletproof vests inside the helicopters.
Yeah.
So they'd go down inside the rice paddies and they'd get shot up, from underneath and it would come through the helicopters. He would typically sit on 3. A lot of other people sat on 1 and 2. So he was saying one day they went down and got shot up from underneath. It came through. It killed the co-pilot, wounded the pilot, killed the door gunner on the other side. And it stopped in the last vest of his because he sat on 3. And he says, you were a quarter of an inch, son.
Wow.
I'm like, holy shit.
That's a real story.
That's a real story.
Jesus.
He doesn't talk about it anymore. Only he used to drink, doesn't drink anymore. But when he did drink, he would tell the story.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild. What did you learn from service?
I mean, a lot, but
Yeah.
I think some of the things that I really kind of carry with me still is like gain perspective before you make decisions. So a lot of people just create what happened in their mind and then they act upon it and they reprimand based on it. And then they find out afterward that, that's not the real story. So I learned to try really hard to understand the other person. Hey, why did you do this? Like understand before I reprimand and I'd make sure I have as much context as possible before I make a decision. Cause that can really,
like they call that emotional discipline, right? Emotional discipline, which is, it's hard for most people because we're emotional creatures.
Yep.
And so being able, like you said, to kind of pause. And I think we've all been there where you get heated up after whatever an email comes through or a phone call or something happens and you want to respond quickly.
Yep.
I'm sure as you get a little older and wiser, you begin to kind of say, nope, like let's think about this for a second, not respond, take a breath, and kind of just slow down for a minute. And then it's amazing when you do that, your response is usually much better.
Yeah. And it's much more of a collaborative type, situation. And I'm just in general conflict or whatever it is. It's like, hey, I want to understand where you're coming from before, and then how do we work through this problem? Not you did something wrong and I'm going to be mad at you.
It's not me against you.
It's us versus the problem. Exactly.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that's what most people get out of the military, for sure. And, the other things too, but that's definitely being, not as happy as I am now at certain points because of things like that.
Yep.
It's one of those, it really is. It's one of those, this thing happened to me and I don't want it to happen to others.
Did you have the discipline before you went into the military or afterwards more?
I mean, I would say that I was relatively hardworking. So I was in the band, my first enlistment. I was a tuba player and I, had to get good enough to be in the band because that's the only job that you have to audition for and get approved for before you are actually allowed to join that job.
Yeah.
So I joined with open contract and could have been anything before I, got accepted, but I had to practice 2, 3, 4 hours a day to do that. And, I wanted to do that and then got into it. I wanted to get into fitness and understand it. And then I went to school for that for a little bit. And, so yeah, I guess relatively, I would say that I had kind of enough of it dialed in to not be a complete dirtbag, but, over time you start to, it never gets easier. Every single morning when my alarm wakes up or, my girlfriend wakes us up with her 4 o'clock alarm. And I'm like, well,
4 o'clock?
No, it's wild. So yeah.
She wakes up at 4?
She wakes up at 4 and now I would wake up at 5 and I was like, wow, never did I think that I would feel
inferior.
Inferior for waking up at 5 a.m. So, I say half the days, 3/4 of the days now, I get up around 4 and it's
holy cow.
Never not one day have I been I want to get up at 4. So it doesn't get easier by any means. It's just, you just kind of accept it and move on to the next thing in the day. And it's use the willpower, leverage the willpower for the things that matter. Leverage the willpower to wake up and then you're up. Leverage the willpower.
What does your morning routine look like typically?
So I'll wake up, work on my computer for a little bit. I try and pretend that I meditate every day. It's not every day, but a good amount. I'll work on my computer for a little bit and then go to the gym, do some cardio, weightlifting, and then go back, shower, and then go to work.
I don't know, man. By the looks of your Instagram, you're doing some serious lifting. I gotta step up my game.
If I told you that I was weightlifting for almost 10 years now, it would hopefully be less impressive than it is.
Okay.
But yeah, it just kind of become a non-negotiable at this point. So that is something that and sleep are 2 things that I have learned to prioritize. And that's the rest of my day I'll work. That's fine. But those things are non-negotiables because I know that those make me happy. Those make me more productive.
Yeah. And master your morning, master the day. Right. It's typically what they say. Do you take any sleep supplements or,
I take
ZQuil?
No, I take creatine and pre-workout for the gym. Okay. And then it's really just consistency. It's one of those things. I know people that will go for a week or they won't or whatever, and then they'll skip a month and a half and then go back. And you'll never. It's literally fitness is the same as sales, is the same as success in life. It's the same thing.
So if somebody wants to lean down a little bit and maybe add some muscle mass. Yeah. I.e. me, what would you recommend?
Resistance training, but learning about resistance training.
Okay.
So, there's a level of education and a level of concerted effort to get better at your form and get better at mind muscle connection and really understand, kind of the things that move the needle. A perfect example, I was, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was helping a lot of people with their fitness and stuff. And there was this one kid that, I'm trying to help him, I'm trying to teach him for 3 months. And he's like, I don't know why I'm not losing weight. I cut out salt and everything. And I'm like, that literally does nothing. That has nothing to do with why you do or do not lose weight.
Right.
So just having a general, doing enough research to be able to find the commonalities between different people's advice and then, leveraging those. So eating enough protein, not overeating, portion control, weightlifting on a regular basis, getting, some level of activity in during the day, drinking a lot of water, getting enough sleep, those fundamental principles, getting those dialed in helps a lot.
Yeah.
But it's hard. I spent 3.5, 4 years, meticulously, weighing all my foods and stuff. And,
really?
Yeah, I was.
Well, yeah, and being over 40 now, you have to really dial this stuff in.
Yeah. And,
so
yeah, it's a concerted effort, just like anything else that you want to get good at. If you want to get good at, finding deals or wholesaling, it's just break it down. Okay, I need to, learn about fitness. So I need to watch an hour of YouTube videos a night, or I need to, exercise daily and, videotape myself and then look at the video, cross-reference with somebody teaching it, see how I can tweak the form. And it's just, it's just something that's hard to do over time. Like that. Yeah. It just takes a concerted effort, but anyone can do it. 100%.
Speaking of relationships and connections, I don't know, Nick Davidson just stepped into their little mini studio.
What's up?
Did you guys have not met before?
No.
Okay.
I'm Brian. Nice to meet you.
Can I pull up a chair for him? Would that be all right?
Yeah, dude, come hang.
While we're here, let's have some fun, man.
I mean, it's a Friday.
You didn't realize you're getting on a podcast
Surprise.
today, did you?
Can I use the bathroom real quick?
Oh, no.
Down to the right. No, straight down to the right. He's like, what do you say? He's like, I got to pass some kidney stones.
Yeah, he's like, I got kidney stones right now.
I love it.
Oh, man.
I'll turn the mic up for him.
Yeah.
By the kitchen. You can grab that. That's hilarious. So what does your family think about you being out here in Cali? And do you travel back there often, or?
I mean, the answer is not as much as I should, for sure. But I just went back. This month, actually, for Easter.
You have siblings, or?
I have one brother.
Yeah.
Who
Older, younger?
Older, married, has one kid. And actually, when I went home, which was the first time in like 9 months that I went home, I found out that his wife Emily is pregnant.
Oh, with a second child?
With a second child.
Oh my gosh! Just
So
chat into
hopefully
that
she's
thing
told
real quick.
everyone by this point, because she'll yell at me.
Everybody does know.
Yeah. And so yeah, it was really
You
cool
can talk
to
into that thing real quick.
Yo, test.
Test. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. What's up,
Wow,
man?
we just turned into a trifecta here.
Let's do it.
I should have known better, man. Like, Justin.
Yup.
Trial by fire, dude. Let's go.
I mean, you said you were going to stop by and say hi, and I said, well, if it ends up working out, we'll put you on.
Might
But
say a
otherwise,
couple more
But
things
I don't want to take his flame away.
No, this is perfect.
No,
bro.
I'm all about it.
Let's
This is
roll.
awesome.
So you guys are both. So he does ADUs and kind of development stuff. You do like apartment flipping, right? Or
Yeah, I to sum it up, in the last 15 years, I flipped about 1,000 houses here in San Diego.
Wow.
And then maybe 4 years ago, I started buying smaller apartment buildings. But I love what you said about Linda Vista.
I am so bullish on Linda Vista.
I went to school in Linda Vista at Francis
did
Parker.
Oh, okay.
There at Francis Parker, and I drive by there and I see it, and I drive back in some of the neighborhoods and stuff because it's a little bit untapped, I think.
Yeah. I feel that same way. But you don't know what you don't know until you I think I know. But then
So you know what's interesting is so the reason I'm so bullish on it is like a year ago I went through and I cross-referenced like literally every lot from the border to San Marcos with the zoning, like literally every single lot. For like all the way around. And I cross-reference like the size of the lots in the areas with the zoning that they have, with the rents that you can get, with the underdevelopment of the areas. And you started to see these trends of areas that were underdeveloped with really high rents and good zoning. And if you look back 3 years ago,
we'll be cutting this out of the podcast.
No, 100,
Just
yeah.
FYI. This part will be automatically accidentally muted.
We're gonna cut to a break, people. We'll come right back to you.
So if I asked you 3 years ago where was underdeveloped, super high rents comparative to everywhere else, and then good lots, where was it?
Linda Vista.
North Park.
Well, it's North Park or City Heights or
It was North Park was the perfect example, and now it's not. But the other place that is as similar, and the only difference is it doesn't have the walkability, but it has the central location relative to everything else and acquisition value. Linda Vista.
Yeah, and you're by a pretty nice university that can help feed a little bit of that too. So and they're growing.
So I definitely am bullish on that, and just generally everywhere above the 8. I think that people
Claremont still, Serra Mesa,
San Carlos, Allied Gardens. Like I have one in Allied Gardens, and I am just like, I'll let everyone else go play around in North Park and overbuild. I am going to build gold assets in single family neighborhoods.
Well, like you said, it's about highest and best use. I mean, because the minute you start getting into 10, 20, 30 units on a lot and that type of stuff, now you're dealing with a full-on development. It's no longer a little ADU game. Now you're playing with some big boy stuff.
Exactly.
And they're going to start changing codes and stuff on you, and you're going to get into a 2-3 year entitlement process, on and on and on. I mean, I grew up doing that crap. So I know it.
You have tons of experience. You guys probably have tons of experience with development. A lot of these people, and I am one of them, are getting into big boy space without having done the little boy space
Right.
first. And so you don't know what amenities are actually valuable when you have a 30 unit apartment building with that density. You don't know what actual turnover costs are going to be. You don't understand any of this stuff. All you have is you're just multiplying an ADU by 40. Like, so it's like, there's no other science that's going into it that I'm seeing from a lot of these people. And I hope everyone does well, but like, I would be shocked if every single person made it out scot-free, for sure.
Other than the Vista, what other areas are you looking at or doing stuff at?
I'm staying away from East County now.
Okay.
But my main focus is Linda Vista. I do like PB for certain property types, and then I love Cherokee Point.
Cherokee
Okay.
Point. Where's that?
Okay.
Dude, I feel like it's like I don't know if this is true, but they renamed it like North Park East. I know, dude.
Cherokee
It's
Point?
the hood.
City Heights,
It's like in between North Park and City Heights.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's the wine glass,
It's
right?
the wine glass.
Yeah, it's the wine glass.
But it is like,
Between
my
the 805
God.
and the 15 or something like
Yes.
that?
Rent's just,
it's just
my
the
God,
path of
it's
progress
so
now.
hot. Oh, it's so hot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anything that comes up for sale in there, I want to grab. But the cash flow seems to be a lot better in those areas. And then the stuff in PB that I've got is more that long-term, equity builder to development stuff.
For sure.
More ADU stuff, more flipping, more because I've seen some of your kind of smaller or mid-sized apartment deals, like 8-10 unit deals or whatever it is, flipping those babies.
Yeah, I'd say that I was doing about 20 to 40 house flips all over town before interest rates started jumping up, and I got nervous.
Per year or just in general?
For a couple of years,
Yeah.
and ebbs and flows of the inventory that would come in.
Right.
But then interest rates started pumping up, and I was like, man, I'm Mr. Chicken Little for sure. Like, no, it's 2008 all over again. Let's get rid of everything and just hold the stable assets. So we stopped flipping everything and then just bunkered down on what we thought was really good. Wow. But then 6 months ago, I'm like, boy, there were some
Sick deals.
stupid deals, dude. Dumb. So one in particular was a 4-unit that I wholesaled for $150,000. The guy that we wholesaled it to, put it back on the market as is, did nothing, sold it 32 days later and made $350,000.
No way.
Net.
So you made 100 wholesaling it.
Oh, yeah.
There was a
150.
And then he made another 300 on top of that?
Yeah, so I texted my guy in my office.
Was that because it was an ADU deal?
4 units. Oh, okay. It had an ADU potential with two car.
Because how's the price?
Oh, dude, it was
Get up
crazy.
that.
We didn't even see it either, and I was like, "What? That could have been 450 net in 30 days."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, "We gotta let's turn it back."
Yeah, we
on
gotta
a
play
little
this
bit.
game again.
Yeah, let's But I don't want to get I slowed down because I wanted to.
Yeah, just
I'm in
see.
a very we're done. You don't need to be all crazy, but I got 2 little kids, and I just wanted to spend as much time with them as I can. But it's hard to watch that happen and be like, no.
What's interesting, so I was telling him I just went to the IMN Distressed Assets event in San Francisco the other day.
Oh, okay, cool.
What did you learn from that?
Yeah.
People are not feeling the same thing San Diego's feeling.
Oh.
San Diego is very
vacancy and
just
all of
prices,
Okay, cool.
the general sentiment of the market, everything like that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, San Diego's unique right now
It is.
for a host of different reasons. The big one was due to the work from home environment, right? Remote working. It helped in different ways. This is why the USA Today marked San Diego the most expensive city in the United States of America per capita to live in.
Yep.
Mainly because people like some clients I sold a home to here in Point Loma, they worked for Walmart.com doing the back end tech up in Silicon Valley during COVID. Well, company comes to them and says, well, we're only going to move 50% of the people back into the office spaces. We're going to consolidate.
Yeah.
So as long as you stay in California, you can live anywhere. As long as you stay in California, you'll get paid Silicon Valley money. We'll give you Silicon Valley benefits. We'll give you Silicon Valley everything. You can live anywhere in California. So what do you think they're going to do?
Rent from us.
No, they literally just said, I can live in San Diego,
Right.
And I can remote work,
Yeah.
and I get that kind of money in San Diego.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
Yeah,
So they
totally.
come down here where a home up there's $3.5 million for the same house. They come down here for $2 million, and they're sitting gravy
With better weather.
and they think and they're staring at downtown. So it's wild,
Win-win-win.
but so you exacerbate that and multiply it because that's what's happened to San Diego. So you have people from all over the country coming in for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And because of the remote work environment, they're like, I can live anywhere. I'm going to San Diego.
And you even
so
have-
now our prices have gone through the roof. Inventory squeezed even further. And we have this really interesting dichotomy because you can't build anything for less than $4 trillion here.
Yeah.
And 19 years later. So you have a massive shortage of housing that is not going to get better. I mean, they could build literally 10,000 units a year.
Right.
And we still wouldn't catch up.
No.
I mean, that's how crazy it is. So I don't know how that changes. I don't know how you have I guess the only way you would have a collapse or change in what's going on is it'll be unrelated to real estate. It'll be attached to currency. It's the only way.
Yep.
So you're going to have, and I think it's perhaps on its way, currency crisis that then triggers other things and affects. But it won't be real estate taking us in, at least not for San Diego.
Yeah.
It'll be something external that then obviously filters its way in. Because people don't
I
have
agree
money
with you.
or their money's worth nothing.
Yeah,
One of the two.
Supply and demand is just so awesome here.
Yeah. Super unique environment for that. So,
Yeah.
well, this is cool. Good little podcast action.
Yeah.
Well,
You didn't know you were going to be doing this today, did you?
No, come chill, come hang out. I'll chill on the couch. Jump on the mic.
That's how we do it. Improv.
Do some jumping
Improv.
Jackson.
Are you from San Diego?
No, originally from Ventura County.
Okay, but California.
Yeah, SoCal.
SoCal.
Been down here 15 years. But yeah, to answer your question, which I don't know if I did, but yeah, we're turning it back on both departments.
Flipping?
Let's turn on the flipping game, and then let's turn on the apartment game as well.
Okay.
But I'm driven by the numbers. I don't need to be going. I don't need to hit the goals of the 100 house flips a year. I think those days are kind of gone.
Well, yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean,
let's-
just lack of inventory.
Yeah,
makes sense.
let's hit
and the margins and everything
let's
too.
hit the margins. Drive by the margins.
Do you get most of yours direct to seller?
A lot of them are agents.
Really?
A lot of agents just bring us deals.
Pre-market.
Pre-market. They know that they're going to get a low number, but they know we're going to close.
Yeah.
And
And then can they rep both sides?
Oh, they're repping both sides. They're relisting. I think it's. I feel like it's everyone.
Do they get the normal buyer commission going in sometimes, and then like a 1% going out type thing?
We have done two things where we're giving them their normal on the back end for relisting, but then some of the agents we know like the grind, like the drive, like the competition, we're giving them a waterfall structure.
So they're coming into the equity.
Oh yeah. Oh, no, just the listing fees. So we can start at like a 1% listing fee, and we've paid up to upwards of 4%.
Depending on what you get us.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
you hit these 25.
Yeah, it's progressive.
Yeah,
I
the
like
harder
that.
you work, the more money I make, the more
yeah,
money
it's
you
a
should
win-win.
make.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
100%.
Let's play this game.
let's give the food to the hand that feeds us, right? So
wow.
I couldn't agree more.
no,
That's
what-
sick.
Yeah, and the whole game of due to the whole NAR thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I knew it was coming.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I knew because, Kevin and I both worked for a company called Harcourts, Australian-based company, New Zealand, Australia-based company. And, the United States is one of 2 or 3 countries left in the world that has 2 sides to a transaction. Okay. Period. The rest of the world does not have that. They have 1 side. And so we saw it. It just takes time. And it finally came to a head. But I kind of saw the writing on the wall where you're going to have compression on the buy side of the transaction first. And then I obviously I didn't know NAR was going to do the settlement thing, but I figured there's going to be a point where the buyer's agent, the traditional buyer's agent, as we know them, is going to get weeded out financially from the transaction, where it's not going to be your normal 5 or 6% commission. I mean, it's happening right now as we speak. It's going to ultimately end up somewhere around 3 to 4 total.
Yeah.
And closer to probably 3 to 3.5 total commissions on deals. Because what's going to happen is you'll have 2.5% to the listing agent side. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to how do we deal with dual agency? Because that's really the big issue at hand, especially in California and the liability issues, the dual agency issue. And make buyers feel like they have representation. You take away the legal issues of dual agency, but still be able to have a person in the transaction to handhold the buyer without them feeling like there's a conflict of interest. So between technology, which is ramping up for that, and probably having a buyer's transactional agent almost, not even a buyer's agent anymore. It's going to be literally just fill out some paperwork, bro.
A TC.
Basically, a glorified TC that has a real estate license, basically, that's going to be on the listing brokerage team, kind of. But they're just transactional. They're not.
Yeah, they're not.
The days of opening houses, closing houses, driving buyers around like an Uber driver for Ford. It's going to change.
Yeah.
And the buyers are going to get sophisticated enough through technology. They're going to go direct to the listing agents. And then once they put the offer in, the listing agent's going to be like, okay, well, because of dual agency, we can't do this. So here's our buyer transactional agent.
Totally, bro.
And they're going to get a 1% fee or a flat fee or even a salary for crying out loud.
Right. No,
and then that's why it's going to bring the fees down somewhere right around 3, maybe 4% max.
You actually have to provide value to people at that point.
Yeah. Now the upper end will be different. I think any kind of this in stuff in the upper luxury space because buyers can afford to pay the fees and stuff too.
Right, yeah.
And I think you have to have definitely more sophistication at that level. The buyer's agents will probably still play.
Yeah, I wonder how many buyers will be paying side commissions or a little extra of a bump to make sure they get that next level customer service.
Yeah, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Because it's the good news is, and then there is blessing in all of this. All of the part-time agents gone.
Yeah, no, that is nice.
And if you're a good, sophisticated, career-oriented agent that is good at their job and career, you'll lead and survive.
I think it's just really going to filter out.
Yeah, it's going to filter out at least half.
Yeah.
It's already doing it.
That would be nice.
Just because of lack of inventory issues, it's weeding out half the agents now. But so yeah, there's some unemployment in the realtor world.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes down. So, what else you guys want to talk about? I love the real estate stuff.
Dude, how did you get into all this? Like 15 years,
Yeah.
100? Like, just explain like a day in the life of someone who flips 40 houses a year.
Well, if you got a good team and some systems, you're not doing nothing. I mean, that's the plan.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think Robert Kiyosaki said it years ago, where it's like, if you want to be rich, be lazy. And if you want to be wealthy, be incompetent.
I like
Nice.
that.
And I was
Wait,
like,
say that in
dude,
the mic one more time.
Yeah, I'd get
If
that.
you want to be rich, be lazy. And if you want to be wealthy, be incompetent. So
Interesting.
if you really think about that, I just have always tried to figure out, how do I do less and less and less? And we've always like heard Warren Buffett or whoever will say it, like, write down all the things you shouldn't do, or just the 3 things you should do. And I just always try to decrease that list.
So you try and fire yourself every day. Is that what you're trying to do?
Every minute. Because the day goes by in 2 hours and then there's fires, and you jump in to fix that fire, and you can do it better, easier, quicker, faster, without less headaches. But it's like, let the team do it. Let the team make the mistake.
Okay. I'm going to recater the question for very specific reasoning.
Yeah.
If somebody's doing one singular flip right now and it's one of their first ones,
Yeah.
what would you recommend them doing to set themselves up for future renovations?
For future renovations?
Like in terms of systems and processes on the first one?
Yeah. Well, for first and foremost, always have a mentor.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, 100%. Right. So, I mean, you can go and do this on your own, and you can make these mistakes, or you can go talk to guys like us that have been doing this. Right. So that's my first thought. But then, kind of like you said earlier, just reverse engineer it. What are the steps? What are the issues we made? And how do we put a process or a system in place for each one of those issues? Even if we pull out 2 to 3 issues, those might move the needle enough to where it's like, hey, very simply put, I got 1 or 2 bids. One of my second houses that I flipped down here, I called, text messaged, and emailed as many as I could, 100 contractors on my second house. 36 showed up. I didn't have a scope of work, and I took groups of guys, and I was like, you 3, you 5, follow me, you other 7, wait there for a second. Here's what we're going to do, blah, 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 all through the house.
At one time?
Oh, dude. Then the next
Wow.
group. Next group.
Oh,
hey,
God,
here's my information.
Nick.
I mean, just I had no systems, man. No systems.
That was an open house
You
in
had 36
2021.
contractors.
Oh,
that was an
hang
open
it.
house in
It
2021.
was an open house, and it was all contractors. But I'll tell you now, that
love
transformed itself into the 3 to 5 rule. I get 3 to 5 bids on everything in life. And that really is like
Yeah.
That's
Minimum 3.
minimum.
Even if you already know the contractor you're going to use.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because what you'll do is hold them to the fire.
Right.
Yep.
And I'm a licensed general contractor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the good news is most of them can't bullshit me anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you see costs and you understand things and you do it enough, and they try and be like, oh, no, to paint this room is $12,000 or some stupid thing.
yeah.
You're like, Jose.
Yeah.
All right.
Floor materials
Knock
are
it off.
$7 a square foot. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. Just one step at a time, man. I mean, it's not perfection; it's progress. So if you, like I said, if you can take 1 or 2 things from it, but that one's just
When you
nice.
when you go buy a house right now, do you go in with a sheet where you're checking things off as like you're doing like a pre-bid sheet kind of thing, or a scope of work when you're going in walking a house?
Yeah. So right now, like looking at a new property, a lot of the stuff I'm doing is generally the development side.
Yeah.
So I need, I'm buying stuff that's distressed, so we're renovating, but I definitely have been more loose than I should on some of that. And so now I'm doing one. We're going to add 3 ADUs to, a single family, but we're renovating the house right now. And I am grateful enough to have a mentor kind of showing me the ropes of it. But yeah, it's a lot. And he has a good amount of systems. So it's kind of catching up to those systems, but then thinking about how I actually like learn from it, not just like, am a cog doing the work. It's like, I need to critically think about what he has, how I can make it better at the same time.
Okay.
So
2 questions for you guys, since you're more into that in the San Diego space. Like you said, most of your deals are coming from agents pre-market that know they can close and kind of double in the sides, and they just know they have a seller that will do it. Yeah. Is that what I'm guessing?
Yeah, that's it. Just do what you say you're going to do.
Gotcha.
I mean, back in the day, there was a lot of games being played of price reductions and whatnot. And I think up front, I would even say 10 years ago, it was, hey, here's the number. If you don't like that number, we can go higher or lower. Just tell me what you need me to do, but I want to let you know here's where I'm at.
Right.
And here's where I need to end up.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of agents appreciated that, and they like the back end relist.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
No, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then raising capital side. So obviously there's plenty of hard money lenders out there and stuff. You're probably seeing, I'm guessing, because I think it's changed a bit. I was talking to a guy yesterday where now they'll do, is it 80% of acquisition and 100% of reno on the hard money? Do you guys use hard money?
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting 90% of the purchase, 100% of the rehab.
Okay.
And that probably comes with the...
And what's the maximum back end ARV? Like 65%, 70% ARV?
At this point, just because of the volume and the history, they're just take as much as you can.
Yeah, because you have the reputation.
Yeah, they don't mind what we're doing. They just want us to work the money.
Sure.
What about you guys?
So we use hard money. Everything that I've bought, I haven't bought anything in about a year now. But it was 20% down, point and a half. 10% interest was about where we were at.
Yeah.
So
it's probably pretty much the same.
Yeah. And there was one that I got 20% seller financed. So
really no money out of pocket.
Yeah. So we still, because my track record wasn't extensive at that point, because I'm still newer in the space, but yeah, we only had to come down with 10%, and that was like 1031 money from the land that we sold. And yeah, it was like, so yeah, there's ways. And I think that's definitely a way. It's like, hey, you're going to get 80% of the money now, but keep the other 20% in for 6 months, and you'll get a kicker and make a little bit more money on it.
Sure.
And do you guys do private money, on the back end, the gap funds? Or?
So like I said, most of the stuff's development. So it's actually 3 separate ways that I'm structuring the deals that I'm building right now. One of them raised a second position private money loan for the 3 unit. And then we're shopping debt for the other 2, but they're both going to be construction loans. But one of them is, just straight up construction loan. They're doing it off ARV of the property. So I actually am putting no extra money down. Nice. All I need is float for it, which is nice. Then the
third, the flips, they're not even using ARV anymore.
For us, they're not. Yeah. I mean, it's a factor in their equation, of course.
Sure.
But they kind of trust,
they're kind of trust.
Yeah, you've done enough where they're like, this guy's not screwing this up. Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
Nice. Yeah. And then the other one is just because we have 20% seller finance. Likely she'll keep that in the deal, which will get we're figuring out how we structure it to make sure that it actually is structured correctly to where the bank can lend with that as almost like a second or a promissory note or something. But both should likely be very little money out of pocket aside from the float that we'll need to raise.
Sure.
So
private money guys are just high net worth individuals.
I'm doing a little bit of both. And I know there's some rules off the top of my head. What is it? 35 or less sophisticated investors, and then you have your accredited investors. I would say I've got both, and there's guys and girls between 50 and $1 million, 50,000 $1 million, and I've never.
So you're saying you'll syndicate your gap finance, your gap?
I'll put second trustees on the short term flips.
Gotcha.
Second trustee position.
Yeah.
We're also.
So if you have say $100,000 hypothetically between your private or your hard money, and then the total you need to bring in, you'll kind of syndicate that $100,000
if we need it. Yeah, some of the smaller deals, I'll just self fund it. But then when we're hitting like 300,000 or above,
Yeah, in
then,
terms of money and requirement. Yeah.
because some of those other smaller deals, that the loan amounts I need are they're quicker. So to get a guy in there, do all the paperwork, and then 6 weeks, 8 weeks later, the quick flips, just some lipstick stuff. I don't want to do all the paperwork, or at least bog the team down with it. So let's get someone in there, let their money be worked. And honestly, most of the investors are like, keep it. We want the longer term, 6 to 12 months. Keep it working. I don't want you to call me every 3, 4, 5
And are
months.
they getting what, 10, 12, 15% on their money? I'm guessing?
normally paying them between 8 and 12%.
Okay. So similar to the hard money.
Yeah, similar to hard money. But then they just, they're lending on the property, or they're lending to me directly.
Gotcha.
But that's nice.
Yeah. There you go. I love it. See, we're teaching people how to structure all their deals today.
Yeah. You know what?
awesome.
I mean, another thing, if I can throw it out there for the newbies that are starting, is that I keep it simple. I thought, like I think most things, we think we've got to do all these steps. And it's not totally true. I mean, even to this day, I just have an Excel spreadsheet, Google Doc with just my investors. And I run down the list. And I just found like when I don't have a huge list. I know Justin has everyone's phone number and email, but he has
But we do have
following.
we do have a
we have a few.
We have an extensive CRM, and then
He's like, I don't, but my AI does.
yeah. But then the pitch deck goes out.
I've seen your stuff, and it's every time I see it, I'm like, I gotta do that. I gotta get that. Look at him, he's got this so beautiful laid out. It's so easy to read. Like, I'm just not like that at all. I'm like, yo,
I can't help myself. No, what ended up happening, the way it got that way was when you start dealing with different level of investors and levels of sophistication.
Sure.
They expect that.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get big checks.
Right.
From because I got mentored through Rudy Medina. Are you familiar with who Rudy Medina is?
Sounds really familiar.
Started with Marcus and Millichap as a broker.
Okay.
And that's where he met Grant Cardone. And so he was Grant Cardone's broker here in San Diego. And they actually partnered on Grant's first 2 deals. Did you know this?
I know.
Yeah. So Grant Cardone started here in San Diego.
Yeah,
Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
He was actually living on Camino de la Costa renting a house. And this was back in 1999, 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Walked across the street to a waterfront property right at Windansea Beach and I think Palomino or whatever it is. The broker was getting the house ready to put on the market. And so he's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, let's take a look at this thing. And he talks about this and he went and they ended up buying it for him and his partners for $4.2 million, then flipped it for 9.4. And that was the first time he had like a big check, one big check for himself.
Wow.
And then he had met a bunch of people, and one of them was Rudy Medina here in San Diego. And he was with Marcus and Millichap, and Rudy ended up finding him a 30 unit here in Point Loma, and then a 48 unit in Vista.
Oh, wow.
And those were Grant Cardone's first 2 multifamily deals here in San Diego, and they partnered together on them. Did well, sold them, made a bunch of money. Grant ended up going off into Tucson and buying a bunch of deals in Tucson before, of course, Grant Cardone is freaking Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
So, but they know each other, they talk. Wow. So I got mentored through him. Wow. And that, I always wanted to kind of get into the bigger syndication space of apartments.
Yeah.
But of course, it's a daunting thing to do when, when I say we, Chris and I, we started buying like duplexes and fourplexes and stuff around San Diego back in, 2010, 13, 14, and we stopped, but we had like a little portfolio of 30 units. Yeah. We're like, we're rich.
Yeah.
Right?
We're rich and not wealthy though.
Right. And we're like, wait a minute, like we're kind of missing the boat here because I'm watching like all these people like syndicate, right? I had to learn this, what's syndication, right? And I went out to a syndication conference, met a bunch of people, and that's where I was like, dude, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like if these people can do this, I can do this.
Yeah.
So I just had to get over that limiting belief and kind of jump off the edge of the cliff. And we did our first kind of syndication deal that he's actually a part of in Kansas City, Missouri.
All right.
Yeah. And that was a 27 unit. And then kind of anybody that tells me, because they're getting taught by all these gurus and stuff, like, go big. Even Grant Cardone says, no, do 100 unit. Your first one, 100 unit. Yeah. And I'm like, guys, it's not going to happen. I said, you're peeing into the wind.
Yeah, I did.
Because first of all, no bank, I said, you're bringing one of 2 things to the table when you're syndicating. You're either bringing capital or you're bringing knowledge. When I say knowledge, I mean knowledge of the A to Z process of how to find, analyze, raise capital, close escrow and manage, right? All the operational
Operator.
side. Yeah, correct. And you're bringing that knowledge to the table, which is very valuable to somebody with money, or you have the money and you need somebody with that. Like if you don't have either of those, you're not going anywhere.
Got nothing.
So I said, you need to get knowledgeable. And I said, you do that through, you got to tippy toe in. I said, get out of the 1 to 4 unit space. I agree. Let's get you into 8 to 10, maybe a 20 unit deal, your first deal. Perfect. Raise a few $100,000. That's, so it's not daunting. You'll get a loan easier than getting a $300,000 house loan, which is crazy because when you get in the commercial space, they're underwriting the property.
Like, what's the numbers?
Yeah, they're underwriting the asset. It's a business. Like the property is its own business. And if it makes sense, they give you the money. So as long as you're not a fraud, you're not on American Greed, like you're getting the money. So the loan is the easy part. Then it comes down to the equity. Okay, well, do you have the equity? No. So you need to raise some equity from friends and family. And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't have any friends and family. And I said, trust me.
You do.
If I give you this pitch deck,
Yeah.
goes, if I give you a template pitch deck and you put it together and you send it to a couple of friends who look at the property, people with some, call it dry powder money, they know one thing. If to make more money, I need to move that money. Move the money. Because if I don't move the money, it sits in a bank account, goes down. So I need to move it, which means I need to earn interest on it. Well, I just need something to put it into that I trust. I'm going to get it back and I'm going to get the money with it. So that's all it comes down to. I said, if you have a property that makes sense financially, it's a deal, and it's going to give them a return on their investment, and they can see it based on the information you're providing them, then the last checkbox is, do I like you and do I trust you? Period. Right? And as long as that's intact, you'll raise the money faster than you can fathom.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Well, shit, I got to get that.
You'll raise it faster than you can fathom.
It's
Like, I got to get that pitch deck.
we do somewhat of the same thing. And when I see your pitch decks, I'm like, I want to invest. I'm like, stupid. No. Dude,
I know, I'm raising.
No, I'm doing my own deals. It's good. They're really laid out well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the only reason that happened wasn't because I created that.
Really?
So I went and stole like 5 others.
Oh, perfect.
And then culminated them into one.
Okay.
And took the best of the top 5 I ever saw. Because I probably saw 100 pitch decks. And I'm like, I like that, that, and that.
Yep.
Pull it all in, create our own.
Yeah.
And it's a nice template.
Yeah.
And then there we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as you have a deal that financially makes sense and can give a return to investors, that's better than a stock bond or some other silly, conservative investment.
Yeah.
And it'll give them somewhere between 14 to 20% a year on their money. And it's a medium risk asset, like an apartment building. You'll raise the money with people that know people that know people.
Yeah.
Because even if your friend is broke is a joke, or if your entire family's broke is a joke, it's not the point. It's no different. I told somebody the other day, I was in a Trader Joe's. Great story. I raised 50 grand in a Trader Joe's.
No way.
I raised 50 grand at Trader Joe's. I'm checking out at the checkout stand, right? And food goes on the thingy and having small talk with the cash register. And she's like, how's your day going? I'm like, day's good. Just finishing up some work, some business calls and stuff. And she's like, well, what do you do? I said, oh, I buy and invest in apartments and we renovate them with investors around the country. And she's like, oh, like that's really cool. I said, I was just talking with my brother last night and he's talking about wanting to invest in stuff like this, like get into it. I mean, can I give him your information? And I'm like, yeah, can I get his information? I'll reach out to him and you can connect us. So she puts us on a 3-way text that afternoon. I get on a call with him 2 days later and he's like, yeah, man, I need to invest 50 grand. Let's talk. So I sent him over some information, made him comfortable and he's ready to go.
Oh my God.
Cool.
In a Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
That's rad.
So the point being is people know people that know people.
Yeah.
So don't take it as like my initial sphere doesn't have money. I can agree with that. Maybe you have young friends, you have people that are broke, totally fine. But they know people that know people. So what you do is you pull the sale away and you say, listen, who do you know? So you send it out to your database of broke people and you don't ask them for money. You say, hey, here's a deal I'm closing escrow on and I'm doing. Who do you know that may be interested? And you just leave it out there. Yeah. And what will happen is they'll chime back and say, hey, I really can't do it right now, but I'm going to send it to a friend of mine. And then that friend connects and boom, like that's how it happens. So it's not the initial sphere. It's people know people know people.
Your pitch deck is awesome, and I'm going to say it maybe 3 or 4 more times, and that's it.
wait, 2 more times.
Yeah, your pitch deck is awesome. It is awesome. But my question to you is, are you following up with some personal text messages, phone calls?
Of course.
Okay. So
yeah, because anytime you take it from the digital world. So let's say I went out there and ran a bunch of Facebook ads on a deal that we're trying to raise money on, hypothetically. They're going to come in through the funnel. They're going to obviously want to go from digital world to real world. So you're going to have a Zoom call at some point. And you're going to have a phone call at some point. You're going to have to personalize and connect. But once that connection's made and they trust you and they can go online and see that you have a website and you're not, some fraud. I mean, granted, there's fraudulent people who have those too. Right. But it's like anything. You can go through get a good feel. At the end of the day, it comes down to, do you come off? How do you come off to people?
Right.
Right.
Like that, yeah.
They just want to make sure you're not going to, take grandma's last 50 grand and you're going to be on an American Greed show in 2 years.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
I've got 2 quick little stories about what you just said.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was playing golf. And
by the way, golf course, greatest place ever to raise money.
Yeah. It's awesome. Well, here's what's fun about this. So I was waiting for my guy to show up to play golf, and I'm chatting it up with the bartender guy, and the place just smells of money. And we just start talking, and he tells me he starts complaining about the politics here in California. Easy conversation, and he's not sure if his wife wants to move though, and he's like, "But I've got all this equity in my house, but I don't know how to use it, and I want to leave so we can use it and have a better quality of life, but we're probably going to stay, so I'm just kind of screwed." And I'm like, "Not necessarily, dude. Like, you've got all this cash and equity in your home. Why aren't you pulling a line of credit at a smaller interest rate, 5%, something around there, and then investing it into some guys' deals that pay you 10, 12, 20%.
Could you pull a line of credit for that?
Yeah.
At a certain bank?
Yeah.
Okay.
His house is free and clear.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So he's definitely
he'd have low leverage and blah, blah,
And
blah.
one of my very first investors, after I asked him that years later, I said, where's the cash come from? And he's like, well, I've got a house free and clear in Coronado. And whenever you call me, I just tap into the line of credit, I send it to you, I make the difference. And he was so appreciative of it. He was like, man, I've been working here for 4 years, and I don't really talk to anybody at this golf course about investing and growing their cash. So it was kind of cool that, I was excited to see how we can maybe do a deal. But also, how many people don't know about what we're doing?
Yeah, and you can't presume that because you're sophisticated, right. You have the knowledge, right? Knowledge or money. Knowledge or money.
Right.
And you have to be open to having conversations and not being a secret investor.
Yeah, totally.
So just be open to adding a tagline to the back of whatever it is you're doing. I mean, honestly, I talk to doctors, attorneys, other people in the industry, and I tell them, listen, you're a doctor, but if you want to do real estate investing, you're a doctor and you buy and sell apartments and you renovate them around the country with investors. And that is your new tagline. Because what will happen is they'll forget, if you're at a barbecue, they'll forget you're a doctor for a minute. And they're going to ask you, wait, tell me about this real estate thing. Yeah. And then you have the conversation. Next thing you know, you get a soft commitment. That's what it is, soft commitment. You put them in your database. So then when you have a deal, boop.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
So you're just collecting soft commitments is what you're doing in the beginning. And then they become good commitments when the relationship's built.
Yeah.
I don't know who said it, but you rephrased it, basically letting everyone know, hey, I'm a syndicator. I place money with great deals, and that's what I do. And most people don't know that conversation. It's normally, I'm a doctor, I'm an attorney, I'm a lawyer, I'm a firefighter. And they're like, what are you talking about? And then it's easy just to roll with the more questions.
Yeah. Totally. Well, man, I know we're a little over time, but who cares? I love it. And it's been, thanks for stopping in, dropping in.
Thanks,
drop in.
Yes.
Yeah,
now you guys can connect too.
And
for sure.
I got questions for you, man.
We'll chat a little bit offline. So that is the Abundance to Give podcast. What charities do you have a charity you like?
I mean, there's a couple of homeless veterans, ones that I definitely we're in conversations with, potentially doing something with ADU Geeks with.
Honestly, my own. I half of my rentals are all for veterans, Section 8, and single mothers.
Beautiful.
So I want to be the guy that's doing.
And how can they find you on social media? Instagram?
I don't got one. So I'm mild with it. We used to do some coaching stuff, but I just kind of shut that down and stayed focused. But Sterling Investment Group.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
there you go.
I recently started the Instagram thing. It's the Builder Brian.
I like that.
So
Oh, that's cool.
Good job.
Yeah. Catchy.
Cool. Alliterations, baby.
Now you got to help me find one that's catchy, and we'll put it out there for.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
All right, everybody. Signing off. Take care. Bye.